Hi all, this is Stephanie from Spinstress in the Making, also on Spinstress Station, and this will be my January update. I hope everybody is doing well, and I hope you have a nice little hot cup of tea or something warm, or maybe something adult beverage to get you through this, or some knitting. So let's start this podcast. Some quick updates right now. I've been pretty lucky. I had surgery recently, so I've had some time to be at home, try and rest and recover from that, from my job. And because of that, I've been able to do some knitting. I've also done a little bit of spinning, and it doesn't feel like I've accomplished too much, but I feel like I have made more progress than like what I'm letting on to. So you guys can let me know if you think I'm not making progress, or if I'm just, thinking that, I'm not making good progress, and I actually am. But let's start off with our finished projects. So our first finished project that we have to go over is the Repunzels ladder sock by Safiyyah Talley. And for that, I use the yarn from Shirsty Cat Designs. It's in her Just Sock base, which is a 75% superwash and 25% nylon. And it was the colorway of Amphorus. And I know that recently came into my stash more recently than some of my other yarns, but for some odd reason I just really wanted to do something fun and spunky. I did get that done just a little bit before my surgery, so I was able to get those socks blocked, and I've been wearing them a little bit, so they are a little fuzzy right now. I don't have them all the blockers, but basically this is how they turned out. They're kind of fun. They're just, the color is everywhere, as you can see, so that's why I kind of wanted to switch the pattern I was using for this and just zone it down a little bit, just because there's just so much pop of color. But there is this fun little ladder stitch in the very front and also on the back here that makes it just add a little pop of interest and contrast. So it goes all the way down to about the toe on the front. It goes down to the back of the heel on the back right here. And then of course on the bottom of the foot is just plain stockinette stitch. So that way you don't feel weird textures on the bottom of your feet. So that was done on my US size 0 needles, I believe. I cast it on 64 stitches total for this one. Luckily I have good ease up at the top of both of these socks. Sometimes I have to remember when I'm casting on and I'm not going up in needle sizes for my ribbing that I need to just do a loose cast on, so that way I don't feel any weird tension at the top of my sock. But those are done. Quite happy with them. I've only used them a little bit so far, and they are a little fuzzy, but I think they'll wear just fine. Hopefully, we'll see. But it is superwash merino, so you never know. That is a finished project, and then I had this other project kind of under my WIPs. But I actually did finish it in time for this film episode, and it's actually not knitting, it's spinning, which is fun too. But last time, in my last episode, I showed off an acquisition. I had gotten some roving to spin up. It was the Christmas wreath roving. It's made of Cheviot wool, 100% Cheviot wool. So there's no nylon in this whatsoever. But I kind of chose it because of its qualities, which I'll go over in a little bit. But basically, I wasn't really measuring my grist or anything like that. For the most part, I've been spinning for quite a few years, and I kind of know how I'm gonna spin. I am very much a lace spinner. I could spin thicker yarns, but that would take more concentration energy, just reminding myself, like, don't go thin, don't go thin. So for me, I've just come to the conclusion that if I want a thicker yarn, I'm gonna ply to get up to that. But I spun a lace weight yarn, frog's hair basically, is what a lot of people at Knit Night like to call my spins, or is frog hair. And then I chain plied it all together to do a 3-ply sport weight yarn. And it is pretty consistent. There are some areas where it's like slightly closer to a fingering, and some areas where there's maybe slightly closer to a T-gay, but barely. Like, it's a pretty consistent yarn, which I'm really happy with. And let me show you what it looks like. So, it's hard, unfortunately. It doesn't like to, my camera does not like to get the definition up close, like it will not focus. But you can kind of see, like, fingering wise, it is like a sport weight yarn for sure. And I guess the only thing is that you do see pops of red in here, which is nice, but there are areas where there's like a lot of blue, and I am planning to use this on socks. I want to see how this wears as socks. And I got about, how many yards did I get on this puppy? This is the card that came with it originally. I don't know if this will focus, but it is 4.1 ounces of the Cheviot Christmas wreath. But on the back of it, I just jotted down, I did a quick count on the yardage, and it is about 372 yards. So I definitely can get some socks out of it. It probably won't be a very long sock, at least in the leg part, but that's fine. It should definitely get me through like an average crew cut sock or so. But yeah, so it's all 100% wool. It hasn't been super washed. There is no nylon in it. And I kind of chose Cheviot is because one of the nice things, slight tangent, if you're a spinner and you want to get into spinning and kind of know a bit about some of the breeds that are like offered and the different qualities of their wool and everything, I would suggest buying the Fleece and Fiber source book. This is it without its water jacket or its cover. It's just a nice gray book with a little sheep in the middle of it. But I was just kind of looking through, browsing the different breeds that are in here. They don't have all the breeds in the world, but they have quite a few. And they also go over their conservation status, if they're endangered, critically listed. And that way, if you want to do like a shear them to save them, there's a program. I'm probably not getting the name right, but it's like Shave to Save, where you can like source from the small farmers that are protecting the critically endangered species or breeds technically. And, you know, your money contribution to buying their fleece helps save that breed's genetic, you know, uniqueness for future generations, hopefully. And you get to have like a fun project. Sometimes you can find ready processed roving from that breed, but sometimes there's a lot of like raw locks and things like that where you might have to spin it yourself. So this helps to come in. And so what I was looking for is something that is good for outerwear, for sock wear, and things like that. I just also wanted to look and to see how fine the microns are on some of these fleeces. And so for this Cheviot, the nice thing about this book is that it tries to give you a little bit of the breed's background. So these originated probably, they developed in the Cheviot Hills in England, but what they think is that the ancestry came from Spain, like a ship got shipwrecked close to England and they came ashore, and that's how the genetics start originally. That's what they're thinking. So this breed is traditionally used more for meat nowadays, but back in the day it was like a dual purpose breed. And So it'll like give you ancestry information, also just like different areas, categories of like fleece weight, staple length, fiber diameters, lock characteristics, natural colors, and like using the Cheviot fiber. And so for this one, mainly used for meat, like I said, but it also noted that it's good quality wool in large quantities. So like the fleeces themselves could be quite big, 5 to 10 pounds per fleece, up to 14 pounds for a ram. That's quite a bit of fleece. Australian Cheviot is softer per se, or finer than the more traditional English and American Cheviots. I believe Cheviots came to the Americas through Canada from Scotland, maybe, and then it just filtered down into the United States. An interesting fact is that the United States no longer allows people to import animals from like the UK or England. I think you can get them through Canada, but they have like restricted those imports just due to like disease and pestilence, which is interesting and a little sad because there's some breeds over there that would be fun to bring over here, but they're not here. But basically, for the Cheviots, the staple length was about 4 to 5 inches. The fiber dimensions or microns, technically, for this one, I think this is probably American or English. I don't think it's Australian based on how I feel it. But 27 to 33 microns is the average for these breeds. Australian can be as fine as 24 microns. So the thing about microns when you're going to go spin something is a higher count of microns, like the 30 plus 40, that tends to be like coarser. And then the lower count in microns, so like a 19 to 24, that's like a merino, that's softer next to skin. So the lower the count in the micron, the finer the yarn. The higher the count in the micron, the coarser the yarn. So this one will have good wearability. And so I was specifically looking underneath the knitting, crocheting, and weaving section of this book, besides just looking at some of their spin samples that they have pictures of in here. If they can get their hands on a fleece in this book, they will usually try to show you the locks, preparing it, spinning it, and then knitting it or weaving it. And so it was stating for at least the knitwear makes great sweaters, socks, and other everyday garments, blankets and pillows and such like that. So that's why I kind of chose the Cheviot, is because, you know, there are many fads or things going on right now where either people really love their superwash, and then there's people that want to get away from the more processed yarns, because superwash tends to coat the yarn itself in like I forget what type of plastic, but it's more industrial, there's more waste, and it's more detrimental to the environment. So some people are trying to find pure natural ways of making sturdier yarns for higher wearability. And so this one came across as something that wasn't super coarse and itchy. And of course, everybody is different with their skin comforts. For me, I need softer. I have very sensitive skin, so I can't wear something super coarse, but with my feet and like hands, I can kind of get away with slightly coarser things. So that's why I chose the Cheviot wool, because it will hopefully wear longer. Because it's a higher micron count. It's meant for outerwear. It just has good resilience. And then also how I spun it up. So I did a relatively high twist single, so that way I could chain ply it with a relatively nice tight twist, to give it more durability. I also spun it with a short forward draft, worsted, not woolen. So woolen is usually where you kind of let the wool do its thing, do a backwards draw, allow air to kind of fill that wool. The fibers are not all aligned, so that helps with like R value, like warmth. But then worsted is where you try and straighten all your fibers. You've got like this really nice taut, tight spin to it. It takes more air out of it. It's not as warm as woolen, but it wears better. So if you're trying to spin for a sweater, I would suggest woolen. If you're trying to spin for something that's going to see a lot of everyday use and wear and tear, worsted usually might be the better choice for that. But there's a lot of different ways of doing it too. So yeah, so that was a long spiel. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about one of my spinning projects, because I will be making socks with this probably soon, honestly. And that way you can see something that went from the roving that I showed off really quick last time to this guy right here. And also some of the spinning that you see in this video is of this specific, just little highlights, I guess. It's all like spinning singles or it's plying. And so it's not too much focus on it, but it's all on about this spinning of this yarn. There is like a little bit of fuzz and halo to this, just based on how Cheviot locks are, but for the most part, it's not terrible against my skin, but if I were to make a sweater with this, I would definitely be wearing something underneath it, for me personally. Some people, you know, this might be absolutely fine next to Skin Soft. So, you know, I would just, if you buy Cheviot, based on its characteristics, I don't think you should expect it to be next to Skin Soft. It can be for some people, but do not expect it to be like a Merino. So there's this little guy right here. And so this is, it's still a little wet. I washed it yesterday and hung it up, so it's still drying a little bit, but it's almost there. So that is that finished project. And so now we can go on to my WIPs. All right, so we are now going to go on to WIPs. I need to drink a little bit of tea. Still a little hoarse. I haven't really been talking to a lot of people since I've been at my house recovering by myself. So, all right. So again, for my WIPs, I am still working on the Nakias Infinity. I am actually extremely close to getting this done. So I think the last time I talked about it, I was down here on this lace stitch. And so what I did is, in the pattern, it called for 3 of these repeats. I added a 4th one on here, and then it wanted me to add on the Hoja Malabrigo. If you want more information on the yarn, it will be down in the video notes. So I'll be listing those again. I went into more detail about these yarns like 2 episodes ago when I first brought up the Nakias Infinity scarf. So got to the Hoja, which is, this is where it was supposed to end. Like I think I had to do maybe a couple of inches here with just the Hoja, and then I would add on some discard yarn at the end just for blocking. But I measured my whole entire scarf and I was like 27 inches short. And I know when you block superwash, it has the tendency to stretch, but I did not think it was going to stretch that much. And I actually wanted it to be a little bit bigger because the Infinity scarf was designed for like somebody that is 5 feet 4 inches tall. I'm a little bit taller than that. So I just wanted to add a little bit more just so hopefully it had like a nicer drape factor to it. So at that point, I was still short like 27 inches here. And so I wanted to also use up more of my yarn. I went through a few other people's projects on Ravelry just looking, because there was that front part that I was talking about where there was twists in the yarn that were supposed to show up and have like a nice textural look to it. And how I read the pattern, it wasn't explained very well, so I didn't do it right. And so I went back onto Ravelry and found somebody else that posted the way that they did a textural twist to the fabric that I liked, and I repeated that up here on this other part just to get that texture back into this pattern. So this is in the Hoja's Malabrigo, and as you can see, I did quite a bit of regular stockinette net stitch. And then if you get closer up to here, these nice little like twists here. And so basically you did 1 stitch twist, and then you did 2 stitches, and then I went up to 3 stitches. And so basically what you did is you would take the 2 stitches off of your needle with a cable needle, turn it 180 degrees, and then knit it as you would, I think, singly, but it would add like this little texture, and especially if you went to 3 stitches, then it would increase that long pull of like that first stitch across. So I did that just to add it back in, and then of course it was still short, so I decided to actually mirror it on the other side. So you can see there's the first texture right here. I did like about an inch or so in between, and then I mirrored it back down. So I went from 3 stitches down back to 1 over here, and then continued to knit and stockinette until I had finished up the Malabrigo yarn. And so basically at this point, this is pretty much everything up to here was pretty much the best I could follow the pattern. And then, you know, of course, I'm MacGyvering because the pattern just wasn't the best pattern in the world, written wise. And now at this point, I'm just improving just to make it long enough to be a finished project, but I'm still using all the yarns that are in it. So finished the hoshias, and then I used some of the moorland that I had left over from this part down here. Here's the moorland. And then I had left over it, so up here is where I decided to add a little bit more lace and texture because I thought, you know, that would be fun. So this, I don't know if you can see it very well, but that right here, it's just like a fun, slightly geometric shape. It kind of is similar to that lower lace panel. Maybe I'll try and insert some pictures of it close up, so at least somewhere up here, probably up here. I'll try and get some good pictures of it just to highlight like that stitch definition. But where I got that lace pattern was my sister for Christmas got me the Japanese knitting stitch Bible. And oddly enough, I think I've seen this multiple times at Michael's. Like, you might be able to find it at Michael's and use a coupon on it instead of having to go to Amazon and buy it online. So just saying, check Michael's first, because I'm pretty sure I've seen this here multiple times over the years. Just because it is actually a pretty cool book that I never picked up. So my sister got it for me, and the fun thing is that it has a nice big like glossary, or like an introduction to everything, and then it has a nice big area for the meaning of the different symbols in this book. And then just opening up a random page, it'll give you a picture example of that print, and then you actually get the chart over here of how to do that stitch. And then you would just basically, I found one that I liked. I then went to the front, figured out what all the symbols were, wrote them down, so that way I'd have it on a paper on the front, from the front, just to have it as reference. And I did use, if anybody likes this stitch, I did use number 31 in this book. If you do have this book and you like that stitch, it's number 31. That's the one I used. And then I figured out that because it'll tell you like the repeat, so I think it was about 18 stitches long, and then let me see, yeah, I think it was like 18 by 18 is how, like, if you had to do 18 and then an 18 for the full pattern, and then if you wanted to do that, then you repeat it. So I had 84 stitches casted on here. So I divided it by the 18, and so I figured out that I could have 4 repeats of this pattern. 4 repeats of the pattern all the way across this whole entire, with a few extras on both sides just to border it and make it nice and flat so I could block it easily. I had about, I think, 5 stitches. I even added the 2 rows of purl onto one side and shifted it just so that it actually nicely lined up and looks nice. So there's 5 stitches, then you've got your 4 repeats, and then 5 stitches over here bordering it. So I did that, and I used the rest of the moorland yarn, colored yarn. It's Madelinetosh Light fingering, I think, superwash. And I think I was able to do 3 total repeats of the pattern. So there's 1, 2, and 3. It was like I literally just had enough yarn to do this. I was very lucky. Of this pattern, just to add some extra texture to it and use up the yarn. And then I have some Malabrigo still left over, so I added that guy up here on the top at this point. And then I also decided to just continue those purl columns up through the Malabrigo just to add some texture to it. So I no longer really need these guys right here. I'll be taking those markers off at some point. But after I got to this point, I think I'm still short like maybe 7 inches, 5 inches. So I will continue to use my Malabrigo, knit a few more inches on that. And then I think not all the way to the 87 because this might stretch actually as well. So just gotta knit a few more inches and then maybe just stretch it out as I block it just a little bit to get it to maybe a few more inches past that 86 that I need, 86 or 87 that I need originally from the pattern. So that is close. That was a long-winded explanation, but I am very close to getting this one done. I need to borrow a friend's blocking mat because my stuff is just not that big, or I need to buy those sponge ones that I can like lock. I have some, but I don't think they're going to be long enough or wide enough. I think I need to buy a second set to put along next to it to stretch it out. And then I'm also going to be getting some nicer blockers to help pull and keep this shawl nice and taut, at least the corners wise, because it has been rolling in and out and stuff. So yes, that is why this one is kind of on hold a little bit. I just have to knit a little bit more, and then it's more of the blocking process and then Kitchener stitching it together. So for the most part, pretty happy with it. But yeah, it's very much a it's quite a bit of fabric here. There we go. And you know, it was kind of fun and frustrating at the same time because luckily I have the ability to be creative in the process. I'm not completely stuck on having to follow a pattern through and through to be satisfied. So that's that. I still have the plaid blanket left over. So I think what I'm gonna do with the plaid blanket is maybe make double it up again, and I hope, I gotta figure it out, but I think I might have enough for a hat or something. So I'm gonna try and make a hat with this, and that way I will have like a little bit of a matching or like something that goes with this for my head, and then when I wrap it. And then I still have Malabrigo Millefiori, so that maybe I'll do some hand mitts with. Maybe I'll use a pattern in the Japanese Stitch Bible because they have this part where it kind of shows how you could make socks or add the patterns to socks, add the pattern to hand knits. And so I'm like, maybe I'll try and do that so I kind of get more exercise in my brain and learn how to actually make patterns a little bit. So I might use that, especially since that one's 50% wool and I think 50% acrylic. So I just feel like it might wear well on the hands, and I could probably wash it and be a little bit more tough on it. If it gets dirty per se than one of these guys, but it's still super wash. I can still wash it, but it just might fuzz up more on the hat than less on the hat than on the mittens. So there's that one. All right, and then I'm also working right now. Sorry, I keep pushing my glasses up. They keep sliding just a little bit. That's really annoying. So the next project that I have currently going are socks for my sister. So I did cast on some extra socks. In this sock, I was challenging myself a little bit because I've been doing the 2-in-1 for all my socks recently, doing the afterthought heels. And so this time I was like, I am going to learn how to do a traditional heel flap, gusset, garter, and everything. So for this one, I have one of the socks already done, and I am already working on the foot of the other sock. But this is how they're turning out. They are crazy, fun, spastic. So so far it's pretty successful. I made them extra long because I did knit them with a size 0 needle, so when my sister will put those socks on, it'll probably smoosh it down a little bit because it might be stretching it a little bit more because I wanted it to like fit well at least. So I think I knitted about, sorry about that. I keep on losing space on my phone for filming and I keep on deleting stuff, and for some odd reason it doesn't seem to be giving me all that much more to film with. But yeah, so I did 8 inches on the leg. I did a traditional heel turn. I did a slip stitch, gusset. I think that's what it's called, or the heel flap, just to add a little bit more rigidity. And I just did a traditional heel turn. Luckily somebody at Midnight showed me how to do that. And then just continued down until I had 32 stitches again on the bottom, and then worked it. I did a curvy toe finish up here, which I like, and I've been doing on all my other socks, basically. So at some point I'll learn how to do a different toe, but so far these have been holding up good. So this one's done. I just need to weave in the ends, and then here is the second pair itself. As you can see, I'm already working on the foot again, and then I'll be putting the toe on. So this is, and also this one I have no pattern for. I've done a couple of socks now, so I just did like a basic 1x1 cuff to the length that I liked it. Then I did the leg to the length that my sister kind of wanted it. Just did a traditional slip stitch heel flap, and then just did a traditional turn and a curvy toe. So sorry, no pattern there. And the yarn that is used, as I bring it back up again, is kind of fun. This is a self-striping yarn. This is KingCole yarn. Footsie is the type of yarn. It's made out of 93% acrylic and 7% PBT, which is polybutylene terephthalate. So no wool in it. My sister cannot stand the feeling of wool. It's just a textural thing for her. So I'm just using a synthetic fiber for this. And this is the colorway Kiwi. So the Footsie yarn, which is the base, they're all named after fruits. So this is kiwi. They had watermelon, fig, papaya, coconut, and they're all just like fun little fruity repeating yarns and stuff like that. So that's what I have. I have this much left. I think it'll get me through the sock. Luckily, when I was in England where I bought this, I bought 2 of the kiwi colorway just because I liked the kiwi colorway too. So if I need to go on to that second skein to finish these socks, that's not a big deal for me. So that is the other one that I am working on right now. And now we will go on to acquisitions. All right, so for acquisitions, I have been subscribed to Annie's Love to Knit Socks little subscription thing. They don't pay me to talk about this or anything like that. Not sponsored video. But this time for this month, or yeah, January. And I think I've gotten all of the sock projects that they've like advertised on Annie's. Like I've seen these patterns, and that's probably one of the reasons I wanted to like get into this thing. Or I've seen the sock yarn I wanted to get into and get the sock skeins. So I luckily have been getting the ones that they've been advertising. It'll be interesting to see what I start getting once I don't know what they're going to send me later on. So what came this month in January is this lovely skein. So it's fun. It's got pink and blue spots in the white, and then this lovely yellow on this side. And so this is by Lana Grossa. And it is hand-dyed merino. So what it says is it is 80% virgin wool and 20% polyamide. So it is machine washable. It does feel a little more coarse than per se some of the other wools that I have felt, but it doesn't actually say super wash. So it may not be super wash. It definitely has a little bit more of a halo feel to it. So I don't quote me on it if it's super wash. It just says virgin wool and polyamide. So that'll be fun. Nice fingering weight. And then this time, the pattern that they came with it is the summer shorts. And that actually looks like a pretty darn cute pattern. So I think I probably will do this pattern for a change. The other patterns I've just been like, meh, not really my thing. I'll just do a different pattern. So I think I actually will do this one. And then another acquisition that isn't yarn, but it helps is my boss lent me a book to read during my recovery. I have not read it yet. I'm so bad. Like after college and reading scientific textbooks, I don't really want to read anymore right now. Like I'll pick up some books here and there and I like certain things, but I'll actually really have to want to read them, and it takes me a long time to go through them because I'd rather be knitting or doing something else because I don't want to really read right now. But she gave it to me in this cute little scrappy bag that she made. She likes to sew, so it's nice that we have things in common. But she likes to sew, and she's like, I have way too many of these. Can you find a use for it? And I was like, heck yeah, I'll use it as a project bag. And so I can just like loop it through here, hold it on one arm if I want to. And so it's just this fun scrappy. I love the mushroom fabric. There are bears on the inside, so it's like a woody kind of themed scrappy bag. So I got that from her. She said keep the bag, but I want the book back. So I'm like, yes, I need to do that. And then another thing that is useful I find is the sock ruler. If you don't have the sock ruler, I find it quite useful for when you're knitting socks. So instead of having to use your tape measure to measure the lengths of things and like making sure it's all laying nice and flat, you can usually scooch your sock onto it, knit down to how long you want your leg to be. You'll do your turn, and then as you're working the bottom of your foot and heel, you can actually shove this puppy up into your heel, so you get a pretty accurate read of how long your foot's gonna be, and like then you would just knit down to the amount that you need before you go to your toe, and you hopefully know how long your toe might be, and then that way you can just finish it off. So that is also a useful tool, and it's called the sock ruler, and I will also post information on this down in the description below. So now we are going to go to our future projects. Alright, so for future projects, I feel like I'm just a record on repeat, but I think this is the time, now that I've figured out a simple traditional heel turn, I think I can do this, is the WAT, or White Socks by Crazy Sock Lady Designs up here. You've seen it multiple times. I think I'm ready to finally do it. So I think I might use this yarn in there. It's not crazy like Amphorous was, so I think it'll be fun to see that texture. I just gotta make sure I have enough yardage. I haven't looked at the yardage for that pattern, but I think this should work for it, hopefully. So that is my plan, is to do that. I also have Malwinka sweater by Aleksandra Solowianiuk. I think it's either Russian or Eastern European last name. I'm so sorry if I butchered it. But right up here, as you can see, it's really cute. It's got some puffy sleeves. I have fiber that I got as a fleece, got processed into yarn, and then I also ordered some yarn from Little Big Yarn Company. The correct thing is up there. I ordered some mohair from her that have like browns and greens, and hopefully that will be coming in the mail in the next month or so. I think she's going to be finished dyeing at like February. So I'm planning to match it with those two together for this sweater. There's also the Holly sweater, which is beautiful, and I am planning to frog an old sweater to use for the most of the yarn in this, and then I'm going to buy a contrasting colorway in the same fiber or yarn base for that really fun, simple color work. So that is my plan for that. Sorry, the Holly sweater is by Hanne Rimmon. And so yeah, I'll be ripping apart a sweater to do that one in up here. And then I'm thinking of using the Late Creed by Asita Krebs up here again, for using up some of that leftover Madelinetosh light to make a hat. I'll just be holding it double because I think it uses a worsted weight yarn, and that is fingering. So those are kind of my current plans right now. For the future stuff, it might change as usual. But for most part, I think that is what I want to knit. I'm still on the fence on like if I want to knit a vest at some point instead of just continuing to do sweaters, or maybe do like a summer top because it is going to start warming up more here in the Southwest. It hasn't been super cold, but there have been some days where it's been like nice and rainy, some freezes. But we are starting to get into spring, so things will warm up a lot faster than per se somewhere back east. And I don't have a lot of tops. So I might possibly be thinking of doing some tops, and I will have to do some research into some of those patterns that I would want to do for maybe the next update. But as always, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope everybody is healthy and happy right now, or doing self-care to, you know, get yourself back to a higher percentage. You know, I'm still recovering, and I've been trying to take it easy. So it's just, you have to fight that little voice in your head. It's like, oh, you're being so lazy. You should be getting more done. It's like, you just had surgery. You're not supposed to be doing a lot of things. And it's okay to put your chores off for a little bit until you have to go back to work. So I have a few more days without work. I'll probably be getting my chores done at that point. But yeah, let me know what you guys are working on. Hopefully you guys aren't having to do surgery or anything like that. And I will see you guys for the next update. As always, if you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. That helps me bring more content to you guys. And I will see you guys next month. Bye!